The first thing anyone remembered was the sound of porcelain shattering across polished marble, a crisp, echoing crack that sliced through the soft ambience of a high-society luncheon. Guests turned, startled, as a young waitress stood frozen beside the broken plate, her chest rising too fast, her braids trembling, her eyes shimmering with the kind of fear that didn't come from embarrassment but from something deeper, something old and unhealed. Only one person seemed unable to look away, the sharply dressed man who had just walked in, a billionaire known for his unnerving intensity and a gaze that could make a person feel both seen and exposed in an instant. If you're watching Kindness Diaries, like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in hope, compassion, and second chances. The girl, whose name tag glinted under the chandelier lights, fought to steady her breathing. Her name wasn't important to the wealthy guests who watched her with polite detachment. What mattered to them was the spectacle of her mistake. But for her, this moment was another reminder of how fragile her world had become. She had taken this job not because she dreamed of serving champagne beneath crystal chandeliers but because it was the only way to pay for her younger brother's medication after their father vanished from their lives and their mother's exhaustion became a permanent shadow. Every shift she worked was a race against time and bills, a quiet battle she carried alone. And today, she was losing. The billionaire, tall and commanding in a navy suit, wasn't the type to attend luncheons like this by choice. A board member had insisted he appear for an important acquisition discussion, and he had reluctantly come, carrying the quiet weight of a different kind of loneliness. He had everything, fortune, fame, influence, yet nothing filled the quiet hollow left by an unresolved grief that followed him everywhere, whispering his failures in moments of silence. A sister he couldn't save. A promise he couldn't keep. Whenever he saw someone struggling, a part of him snapped awake, alert, almost desperate, as if trying to rewrite a past that could never be changed. He hadn't expected the sight of the waitress, her trembling fingers, her forced calm, the way she hid her pain as though she had spent a lifetime perfecting the art, to pull him into a memory so vivid he nearly staggered. His sister had looked just like that the last day he saw her, trying not to show how much she needed help. The luncheon continued, music swelling softly from the orchestra near the far wall. The room sparkled with daylight from enormous windows draped in rich velvet, catching on the crystal chandeliers and scattering white light across the polished floor. But beneath the glamour, a quiet tension simmered, faint, unspoken, magnetic. The billionaire watched the waitress as she swept up the broken pieces. She knelt with careful grace, the maroon vest hugging her frame, the braids falling forward, her hands moving quickly as though she feared every wasted second would cost her something she couldn't afford to lose. She had practiced the art of invisibility for years, moving silently, smiling gently, never allowing her struggles to show. But today the cracks were showing, and no amount of composure could hide them. When the orchestra shifted into a lively classic, something changed, not in the room, but in the billionaire. He walked toward the waitress with slow, deliberate steps that drew curious glances from the guests. It was an absurd idea, one that seemed to form from a mix of intuition and desperation, a challenge, a spark of chaos, something that might shake loose the suffocating heaviness pressing on both of them. He stopped beside her, and without warning, extended a hand. The waitress froze as the music swelled around them. Her heart hammered with confusion and dread. She feared losing her job, feared drawing attention, feared the eyes of people who would judge her with amusement rather than understanding. But the billionaire didn't reach for her hand to take advantage or to humiliate her. There was a quiet plea in his expression, a plea that said he needed something too, even if neither of them understood what that something was. Guests leaned forward. Some smirked. Others whispered. A few recorded on their phones, eager for gossip. The waitress felt her cheeks burn. But then something inside her shifted, a tiny flicker of rebellion born from exhaustion and the unspoken truth that life had given her too many reasons to crumble already. Maybe, just this once, she could choose something different. When she placed her hand in his, a spark of surprise rippled through the room. He meant only to guide her into a small step, a gesture symbolic and harmless. But as the music deepened, she moved with unexpected precision, her body flowing into a graceful spin that stunned everyone watching. This wasn't the awkward shuffle of someone caught off guard. This was the movement of someone who once lived for rhythm, someone who carried dance in her bones like a long-lost language. She had not danced since the day her world collapsed, since the moment she traded ballet shoes for double shifts, rehearsals for hospital visits, dreams for survival. But now, under the bright daylight that poured across the marble, her instincts awakened with bittersweet familiarity. Her braids spun through the air, her steps light and precise, her expression shifting from hesitation to something fragile and beautiful, freedom. Gasps rose from the audience. The billionaire stood frozen, awestruck, as she moved with a confidence she had long buried. Her eyes were alive with a mix of release and hidden sorrow, her every turn revealing years of suppressed emotion. She became the center of the room, the center of a story she never meant to tell. When the music reached its crescendo, she finished in a perfect stance, breathing deeply, her eyes shimmering with something raw. Silence clung to the air for a long, suspended moment. Then applause erupted, genuine, thunderous, unexpected. But applause didn't solve her problems. The ovation did not erase debt notices, doctor's calls, or the quiet ache of sacrifices she had made. Still, for a moment, she felt seen, not as a servant, not as a burden, not as a mistake, but as someone who had once dreamed of stages and spotlights. The billionaire stepped closer, realizing her performance was not simply talent, it was a cry from a heart pushed far beyond its limits. He couldn't erase her struggles, but he could offer help, not as charity, not as a transaction, but as a chance she deserved. He knew the weight of regret too well to walk away from someone standing at the edge of the same cliff he once fell from. Before the final emotional closing paragraph, viewers, please comment your thoughts or what part moved you the most. And as the luncheon slowly returned to its polished rhythm, something profoundly gentle settled between them, an unspoken promise that life could still shift, still surprise, still heal. The billionaire quietly arranged for her brother's medical bills to be covered anonymously, not wanting credit, only wanting relief to reach her. He offered her the chance to train again, connecting her to an academy she once dreamed of joining. And though she wept in private when she learned what had happened, her tears were not of despair this time but of release, gratitude, and the unfamiliar hope that maybe she didn't have to carry everything alone anymore. If this story touched your heart, please support it and share it so others can feel the warmth too. She returned to work the next day with steadier hands and a lighter heart, knowing that one moment of courage, one unexpected dance, had changed the trajectory of her life. She looked up at the morning sun filtering through the tall windows, golden and soft, and breathed in a truth she had forgotten: even the most exhausted souls can rise again when kindness finds them. And as she walked across the marble floors where everything had begun, she smiled with the quiet strength of someone who finally believed that second chances were real, and that this time, she was ready to embrace hers.